Hello, welcome back. Welcome back. John, an old YouTuber. If anyone watching this today, so have a good Saturday, have a good weekend. I did find a lot more PDF I like to read about, but I had to think about what to do. I still have it open. I think I just read about steam locomotives, broken railways, and before I go to Hartsen narrow gauge, I will read about the stations there. But for now, I'll just read about steam railways, no steam locomotives there, and this broken railways. That's old Nordhausen Wennigröden Railway. There down there, they have this locomotive is from this locomotive runs on the Brocken Railway. So going to read that's company Mallet. So read about Mallet locomotive. That's another locomotive on this Brocken Railway, made by Krupp. Then with Deutsche Reichsbahn East Germany. Then this station on the Brocken Railways. This is where it starts. We need to go to there. That would be a good place. I could live there. Then I could drive every day this steam locomotive many times. I could record 100 times on driving up and down 100 times a long summer. That's this city, Dry Annen. That's Tree Annen. And refugee siding, that's a siding to a railway. So if you have a goods train or passenger train, they can driving past Skrinke station in the city Skrinken. Then Ekerlok, that's a mountain valley next to this city Skrinke. Then we got Harz Granite, Kalte Bode, Bode River, Wurmbert Skøte Station, Modepot Brocken Station. Then there's a new state Saxony. But actually I got the Harzen Granite. We have another Granite there. Could read it after that. The Harzen have the Granite. Harzen Granite and Granite. Could take one there, but then I have to think about what I'm doing. I still have the Brocken Railway, so I have it open. What is that? Neubahn Locomotive. That's no, we need to have some text there. So actually we can just load close it, Brocken Railways. I have to add that to my read again list. I have a list, a growing read list called read again. But now I have 22 read lists there. I have big mess of read lists. That's the lower section of the Harzen. And I need to read about the Harzen National Park. We need to read about that again. The Harz National Park. And let's write this. I need to read about this Brocken Railways again. Of course, this is where I like to go there, of course. I could record a lot of video from this steam train. Then I could walk around in the mountains and Brocken. So, but let's close this down so my computer not crashing. And let's download some more later. So I did write it down there. The Harzen National Park. But probably I have to go back to the old to-do list, because mostly I was going to read about computer hardware, software, and something about computer processors, CPUs. So when I'm finished do this Harzen, we need to go back to read about computer a few days. Then I have to go back to this, but let's finish, let's spend some days on this Harzen and stuff. But now I read about steam engines. No, not steam engines, steam locomotives. But I'm not finished with this Harzen and stuff. But I have to think how I should do it, because I have more than 1,000. I have 1,000 PDF, and now we're not reading about the moon. I think now we read about steam locomotives. So I have to think about what to read next. That's probably this Nordhaus and Vennegrød railways. And I don't know, I look at that, this is what I need to think about, which read order I need to do it, because I have a lot more here. So, but now read 30 pages of good information about steam locomotives. I like to read that. So I have it, this PDF on another read list. But we can read it again later if I ever get there. So let it be a long one, like 2 hours. Read to end of documents.
Steam locomotive. Owner class of 4468 Mallard Ice, officially the fastest steam locomotive, reaching 126 miles per hour. 203 kilometers per hour, on the 3rd of July 1938. Owner class of 3472 Flying Scotsman was the first steam locomotive to officially reach 100 miles per hour, 160 kilometers per hour, on 30 November 1934.41018, climbing the Schifferbenu with 1066 as pusher locomotive. Video 34.4 megabytes. A steam locomotive is a rail vehicle that provides the force to move itself and other vehicles by means of the expansion of steam. 180. It is fueled by burning combustible material, usually coal, oil or, rarely, wood, to heat water in the locomotive's boiler to the point when it becomes gaseous and its volume increases 1,700 times. Functionally, it is a steam engine on wheels. In most locomotives, the steam is admitted alternately to each end of its cylinders, in which pistons are mechanically connected to the locomotive's main wheels. Fuel and water supplies are usually carried with the locomotive, either on the locomotive itself or in a tender coupled to it. Variations in this general design include electrically powered boilers, turbines in place of pistons, and using steam generated externally. Steam locomotives were first developed in the United Kingdom during the early 19th century and used for railway transport until the middle of the 20th century. Richard Trevithick built the first steam locomotive known to have hauled a load over a distance at Penwide Arun in 1804, although he produced an earlier locomotive for trial at Colebrookdale in 1802. 2. Salamanca, built in 1812 by Matthew Murray for the Middleton Railway, was the first commercially successful steam locomotive. 3. Locomotion number 1. Built by George Stephenson and his son Robert's company. Robert Stephenson and Company, was the first steam locomotive to haul passengers in a public railway. The Stockton and Darlington Railway, in 1825. Rapid development ensued. In 1830 George Stephenson opened the first public intercity railway, the Liverpool and Manchester Railway, after the success of Rocket at the 1829 Rainhill trials had proved that steam locomotives could perform such duties. Robert Stephenson and Company was the preeminent builder of steam locomotives in the first decades of steam for railways in the United Kingdom, the United States and much of Europe. 4. Towards the end of the steam era, a long-standing British emphasis on speed culminated in a record, still unbroken, of 126 miles per hour, 203 kilometers per hour, by a class of 4,468 mallard. 5. In the United States, larger loading gauges allowed the development of very large, heavy locomotives such as the Union Pacific Big Boy, which weighed 540 long tons, 550 t, 600 short tons, and had a tractive effort of 135,375 pounds force, 602,180 newtons. 6. Note 1. From the early 1900s, steam locomotives were gradually superseded by electric and diesel locomotives, with railways fully converting to electric and diesel power beginning in the late 1930s. The majority of steam locomotives were retired from regular service by the 1980s, although several continue to run on tourist and heritage lines. Contents. History. Britain. George Stephenson. United States. Continental Europe. Components. Boiler, steam circuit, running gear, chassis, fuel and water, crew, fittings and appliances, steam pumps and injectors, boiler insulation, safety valves, pressure gauge, spark arresters and smoke boxes, stokers, feed water heating, condensers and water resupply, braking, oil lubrication, blower, buffers, pilots, headlights, bells and whistles, automatic control, booster engines, fire door, variation cylinders, valve gear, compounding, articulated locomotives, duplex types, geared locomotives, cab forward, steam turbines, fireless locomotive, mixed power steam diesel hybrid locomotive, electric steam locomotive, steam electric locomotive. Categorization, performance measurement, relation to wheel arrangement, manufacture. Most manufactured classes: United Kingdom, Sweden, United States, Australia. The end of steam in general use, revival, climate change, steam locomotives in popular culture. See also general types of steam locomotives. Notes, references, bibliography, further reading, external links. History. Britain. The earliest railways employed horses to draw carts along rail tracks. 7. In 1784, William Murdoch, a Scottish inventor, built a small-scale prototype of a steam road locomotive in Birmingham. 8. A full-scale rail steam locomotive was proposed by William Reynolds around 1787. 9. An early working model of a steam rail locomotive was designed and constructed by steamboat pioneer John Fitch in the U.S. during 1794. 10. His steam locomotive used interior blade wheels guided by rails or tracks. The model still exists at the Ohio Historical Society Museum in Columbus, U.S. 11. The authenticity and date of this locomotive is disputed by some experts, and a workable steam train would have to await the invention of the high-pressure steam engine by Richard Trevithick, who pioneered the use of steam locomotives. 12. Trevithick's 1802 Colebrookdale locomotive, the first full-scale working railway steam locomotive, was the 3 feet, 914 millimeters, gauge Colebrookdale locomotive, built by Trevithick in 1802. It was constructed for the Colebrookdale Iron Works in Shropshire in the United Kingdom, though no record of it working there has survived. 13. On the 21st of February, 1804, the first recorded steam-hauled railway journey took place as another of Trevithick's locomotives hauled a train along the 4 feet 4 in, 1,321 millimeters, tramway from the Penwide Iron Works, near Merthyr Tydfil, to Abercynon in South Wales. 14. 15. Accompanied by Andrew Vivian, it ran with mixed success. 16. The design incorporated a number of important innovations that included using high-pressure steam, which reduced the weight of the engine and increased its efficiency. Trevithick visited the Newcastle area in 1804 and had a ready audience of colliery, coal mine owners and engineers. The visit was so successful that the colliery railways in northeast England became the leading centre for experimentation and development of the steam locomotive. 17. Trevithick continued his own steam propulsion experiments through another trio of locomotives, concluding with the Catch Me Who Can in 1808. The Salamanca locomotive in 1812. Matthew Murray's successful twin-cylinder rack locomotive Salamanca first ran on the edge-railed rack and pinion Middleton Railway. 18. Another well-known early locomotive was Puffing Billy, built 1813-14 by engineer William Headley. It was intended to work on the Wylam Colliery near Newcastle upon Tyne. This locomotive is the oldest preserved, and is on static display at the Science Museum, London. George Stephenson. George Stephenson, a former miner working as an engine wright at Killingworth Colliery, developed up to 16 Killingworth locomotives, including Blusher in 1814, another in 1815, and a newly identified Killingworth Billy in 1816. They also constructed the Duke in 1817 for the Kilmarnock and Troon Railway, which was the first steam locomotive to work in Scotland. In 1825, Stephenson built locomotion number 1 for the Stockton and Darlington Railway, North East England, which was the first public steam railway in the world. In 1829, his son Robert built in Newcastle the Rocket, which was entered in and won Thrain-Hill trials. This success led to the company emerging as the preeminent builder of steam locomotives used on the locomotion at Darlington Railway Centre and Museum Railways in the UK, US and much of Europe. 19. The Liverpool and Manchester Railway opened a year later, making exclusive use of steam power for passenger and goods trains. United States. The Stourbridge Lion. Prior to the arrival of British imports, some domestic steam locomotive prototypes were built and tested in the United States. An early miniature prototype was built by John Fitch, who demonstrated his miniature engine to George Washington during the 1780s. 20. A prominent large example was Colonel John Stevens' steam wagon, which was demonstrated on a loop of track in Hoboken, New Jersey in 1825. 21. Many of the earliest locomotives for commercial use on American railroads were imported from Great Britain, including first the Stourbridge Lion and later the John Bull. However, a domestic locomotive manufacturing industry was soon established. In 1830, the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad's Tom Thumb, designed by Peter Cooper, 22, was the first commercial us-built locomotive to run in America. It was intended as a demonstration of the potential of steam traction rather than as a revenue-earning locomotive. The DeWitt Clinton built in 1831 for the Mohawk and Hudson Railroad, was a notable early locomotive. 1923, as of 2021. The original John Bull was on static display in the National Museum of American History in Washington, D.C. 24. The replica is preserved at the Railroad Museum of Pennsylvania.